Okay, welcome, and this is Sharon Vornholt. As Hugo said, I'm an investor from Louisville, Kentucky, and today we're going to talk about probate investing. I've been working in the niche of probates for more than a decade, so it's something that I'm really very familiar with. And today I'm going to tell you about Probate Investing Simplified. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about just the broad overview of the probate process. People try to make it more complicated than it is. You know, you do need to understand how it works, but you don't need to make it overly complicated. And it should be one of your investing strategies because they are off-market deals. Today, we're going to talk about your mindset and how that gets in the way of your success and why probate investing is such a mystery to investors, and it's due to their own mindset mainly. We're going to talk about the four main reasons investors can't get started, the main reasons the heirs put off selling the property, the three categories of houses in probate. We're going to dive into the terminology of probate, finding the leads, and marketing to probates. So why do I love probate so much? Well, they are some of the most motivated sellers on the planet. You know, they inherit this property that they almost never want. So they're off-market deals. There's a whole lot less competition, and you're never going to run out of leads. I mean, sadly or luckily, every month there's going to be a new group of leads that will come into your pipeline. It's not like pre-foreclosures or other strategies where, you know, the lead the lead flow is limited by the market. And the big thing to remember is that these people have a problem and you are there to solve it. That's why you can't think about it being creepy or something like that. So the biggest thing that I could tell you is to understand what business you're actually in. You're in the problem-solving business, you know, and your problem just happens to involve houses. It happens to involve estates and people that have inherited houses. So let's talk about the 8 steps in the probate process. So someone dies. That is the event that starts the entire process. Next, there's a petition for probate. So this is a court proceeding where either an attorney or the family goes to court and they petition to open up the probate so that they can begin this whole process. It is at this time they will find out if there's a will. And if there's a will, that's called testate, and the executor will have been named in the will. So it might be that you made out your will and you named one of your children to be the executor, or it might be another trusted family member or even a friend. But if there's no will, that's intestate, and then that involves another court proceeding where the court appoints an administrator. Now, the terms executor and administrator are interchangeable. The duties and the legal responsibilities of both of these people are exactly the same. So some people think executor has more weight than, the administrator, but that's not really the case. It's just a matter of whether they were chosen by the deceased or whether the court has appointed them. So the next thing that happens is after it's determined who's going to settle the estate, the assets are sold to pay any creditors, and usually at a deep discount. And this is where you are likely to pick up a property at a deep discount. That's when the assets are sold. So this is real property, it's land, any type of real property, and it's also personal property, all of the personal items that the people own. All of these things get sold. So once they have everything sold, the creditors are paid. Now, here's a major misconception about probate, and that is that the house cannot be sold until the estate is closed, when it's actually the opposite. The estate is sold, or the assets are sold, and then the creditors are paid. Then the heirs get what's left, and then the estate is closed. So the executor files a final accounting. So Remember the 8 steps. So someone dies, there's a petition for probate, it's determined whether there's there's a will or not, then the assets must be sold, and that includes the house, unless it's directly inherited. For instance, if you are a husband and wife, most likely your deed is set up so that it's a survivorship deed. It would not go through probate. There are some other times when it wouldn't go through probate if the house is in a trust, different ways. But it's been my experience that more people don't or do go through probate than don't go through probate. But all of this has to happen so that the heirs get paid. And that's what makes the heirs motivated. That's what makes the executor or the personal representative motivated. That is the one thing. Now, it's been my experience over more than a decade of working in this niche that when there are problems, it's almost always because the family's trying to settle the estate without a probate attorney. Things have to be done in steps, and it's not your job to know all the legality of this, but just know that things have to be done in steps. So when they don't do these steps, often things get messed up, and that means there's a delay in getting the estate settled. Now, when it comes to investors, there's 4 main reasons why they don't want to invest in probates, why they shy away from it. And the one big one is they themselves just don't understand the process. And that's what a lot of this tonight is about. I want you to understand the probate process, how it works, and how you fit into this whole big picture. And they don't know where to find the leads. And tonight we're going to tell you that we have a solution for that for folks, certainly in Illinois. So we're going to talk about where you get the leads anywhere, wherever you live, but we'll have a special something for you for the folks that live in Chicago and in Illinois. Now, another reason is even if they know how to get the leads, they don't know how to market to these people. They just really don't have a clue. And the inclination of some people is, well, I'll just call them up. And I have to tell you, that's a really bad idea. We talk about that a lot. You know, these people, you have to be very mindful of their situation. Yes, they have the business of settling the estate to take care of, but they've got, they're sad. They've lost somebody. So their mindset is bad. And that is the same thing is true for investors. They can't get past the whole mindset piece when it comes to working in this niche. They think it's creepy. This is what I hear all the time. I think it's just creepy. I can't profit from someone else's death. Well, that's just simply not the case. Remember that they have the business of settling the estate to take care of before the heirs can get paid. So this is simply, while it's a sad time, it is nothing but a business decision for these people, and it's a job. It's a job on top of everything else. Now, investors are afraid to talk to the sellers about the death of someone. And my best advice to you on that one is just, you will know who has passed away from the notice. Let's say, for instance, it's their dad. Just say, I open the conversation with something like, tell me about this house and about your dad. And then you just let them talk. So just understand that it's a sad time, like I said, but they need to take care of business. So once you can adjust your mindset, then you can be very successful in this niche. Remember that in real estate, you're in the problem-solving business. People have a problem that has to do with a house. It might be foreclosure. They may have lost their job. In this case, we're talking about someone that has inherited an unwanted property. But regardless of the niche you're working in, you're almost always going to be solving someone's problem. Now, these are one of the reasons I love this probates is that they're super motivated sellers. But they are confused about the probate process themselves, especially if they don't have an attorney or they don't have a real estate attorney, maybe a closing attorney, somebody to help them. And they are in the situation very often that they inherit a house that hasn't had updates for 30, 40 years, that needs a lot of repairs. And they just simply don't want to put their money into the house. Even if they have it to put in there, they simply don't want to put their money into the house. It really is just that simple. So the heirs, they can't, if they're in this position, they've got a house, they're confused about the whole probate process. They can't afford to do repairs, and they're off-market leads. You know, your competition is basically lazy. There's just no other way to say it. They're just basically lazy. So when people tell me all the time, there are so many people out there doing probates that I don't think there's any room for me. And I want to tell you that's not true. People will get started. Will they continue on? Not so much. But the number one reason that I think you should work in probate is that you'll never run out of leads. I mean, it is a sad fact of life. You're never going to run out of leads when you work in the niche of probates. So let's talk about direct mail statistics a little bit. Remember when I talked about your competition is not going to stay in the game, so don't be too worried about them. 81% of your deals will come at or beyond your fifth mailing. So does that mean you're not going to get any deals before then? Oh, absolutely not. It just means that it's like a tumbleweed. Direct mail is like a tumbleweed. It builds on momentum, and you will start to build momentum at or about the fifth mailing. But 90% of the people will stop on or before the third mailing. So that leaves you a huge opportunity. You know, it just know that most people are going to quit, and just by staying in the game, you're going to be, well, the obvious choice, because most of the other people will have dropped off. So I get asked all the time, when should you start mailing to probates? You should start mailing to probates when they open the probate process. So this is how it works. Some people will open it right away. I had one fellow that opened it the very week he buried his dad. That's another whole story. They obviously weren't, they didn't get along. But some people will wait 6 months, 9 months, or a year. But when they open the probate, that is what they're saying to you is, I'm ready to move forward with the probate process. That's what they're saying to you. So how long do you mail to these folks? I get asked this question all the time. You mail to people until you buy the house, someone else buys the house, or they tell you to take them off the list. That's really that simple. There is no 3-letter campaign, 5-letter campaign, or 10-letter campaign. So you mail to them until the house is no longer available. Now, the heirs tend to put off the probate process, filing for the probate, because of one of these reasons. And very often they just aren't emotionally able to deal with it. They have to get the right mindset themselves before they can deal with the probate process. They have to get to the I need to take care of business part of this. But they also have a busy life. You know, these are people that very often it's parents or somebody like that has passed away. So they have a busy life. They have kids. They might have babies. They might have, sports, all kinds of things. So it could be that's one of the, a couple of the initial reasons why they put off starting the probate. But they also put it off because of guilt. You know, they feel guilty getting rid of their parents' prized possessions that really oftentimes don't have any monetary value. Certainly the house does, but the other things, you know, what do you do with their 30-year-old couch that they loved? They often put it off because they just go over there, they'll get some things out. They'll get some pictures out. They always search for valuables and money and things like that. And then they'll look around and see the piles of newspapers, magazines, and butter tubs. And then they walk out. And they may also just walk away because the house needs so many repairs or updates. But by and large, the number one reason they put it off is because there's so much stuff in the house. Like I said, they go over there, they get some of the things out, they close the door, and they think that I'll come back next week or in 3 days or whenever that is. But in reality, they'll go over there a couple of times and they'll take some stuff out and they just give up. They save that job for another day. So once again, this is a huge opportunity for you because you can solve this number one problem. Remember that all the time when you're an investor buying a house from a motivated seller, they're looking for one thing. They're looking for a hassle-free solution. They want cash in most cases. And they also, with probates, they're going to need to clean out the house. They need to get rid of all the stuff. So if you can offer to do that for them, and I do include that in every single offer, you have removed what is often the one stumbling block for them moving forward. And remember that these are off-market leads, so you don't have nearly as much competition as you do for leads on the MLS. So there are three categories of houses in probates, and one of these is very much market-driven. So we have nice houses. Those are pretty houses. And in a market like today's, you're not going to see a lot of those get sold to investors. So they won't necessarily end up being probate houses unless you are a buy and hold investor and can buy these nicer houses as buy and hold houses. And then you have the dogs. These are the ones that are obvious investor deals. They are the ones that need a lot of repairs or updates or both. So they're going to almost always be sold to an investor. And you can sometimes find these on the MLS. It depends on where you are and how hot your market is and how, your inventory and all of those things. But the maybes, these are the houses. They're not the really nice houses. They're not the really horrible houses. These are very much market driven. So back in 2008, when it was very much a seller's market or a buyer's market, I bought houses that needed paint and carpet and $1,000 worth of repairs at wholesale prices. Today, it's a seller's market, very much different than it was in 2008. So the maybes will kind of flip-flop back and forth depending on the market. But just know that there are enough deals out there. You just need to know where to get the deals. Now, folks worry all the time about the legal aspects of probate. They think they need to be an attorney. So do you need to understand all the legal aspects of probate? You do not need to understand them in the way an attorney understands them. So you don't need to be concerned about that. You will always have in Kentucky, we close with attorneys. Different states close with attorneys and title companies. But they will always discover if some of the steps in the probate have been missed because they won't be able to get a clean title for the house. So you need to be able to talk to sellers. And this is the reason why you need to have a basic understanding of the terminology. If you show up at their house and they start asking you about a particular thing and you've never heard that term, then there is just no way they're going to look at you as being an expert, a probate expert. So you need to know what the basic terminology is. You need to know what it means, but no, you do not need the knowledge of an attorney. That's why God made attorneys. They take care of attorney stuff. So the main thing for you to understand is that, except for a few exceptions, the house is going to have to be sold in order to close out the estate. That's the way it works. So do all estates go through probate? Well, not always. And there are different times when they don't, but I'm going to focus on 4 times when they don't. So there are things called small estates, and you can Google in your state what a small estate is. Some states it's an estate under $25,000 or $50,000. Some estates states where home values are more, it might be $100,000. So if there are certain small estates, often where there is no property, they won't necessarily go through probate. Assets that are held jointly are in a trust. Now, I mentioned before about survivorship deeds, like a husband and a wife. These will typically pass from one person to the other without ever going through probate. Houses that are in a revocable trust or an irrevocable trust, they will not go through probate. They will skip that process. Now, when the beneficiary has been named, in certain cases, these are properties that will not go through probate. And payable on death of bank accounts, that's not property, but that is something that you can set up with your bank. So here's an example. maybe I have bank accounts. Let's say I'm single and I have children, so I don't have a spouse. What you need to do in that situation is put your whoever's going to be your heir on your bank account. They don't have access to your bank account in this case. They're called payable on death bank accounts, and they would just pass straight to your child or your person or persons. And these bank accounts then don't get hung up in the probate process. So that is something that I always like to point out. Now, they're going to go through probate in most cases if the assets are owned solely. So if you're married and you have assets, we'll just use Hugo. So if Hugo has assets and Frida is not on those assets like property, then they are, this is a case of they're going to have to go through probate because, they're going to want this to be this way. She's going to want her part of Hugo's assets. Just kidding, Hugo. So if all the probate assets are worth more than $100,000 in Illinois, this varies, and this, as I said, varies by state, they're going to go through probate. If there's no will, the court will decide who gets what. So that's a case of, yes, that is a definite, as long as it's not been deemed a small estate, that it's going to go through the probate process. Of course, if the will is contested, even if they left a will and it's a clear-cut will of how things are laid out, then they are going to, it's going to end up in court and it's going to go through probate. So those are just some generalities, and you need to talk to an attorney, find out any nuances in your state. But that is basically how the process works. It's really very straightforward. So let's talk about the terminology of probate. What exactly is probate? Well, it's simply the legal process of administering a will or an estate, which is overseen by the probate court. So that it is a process. Probate is a process. Now, we talked about this. There will either be a will, or an estate will have a will, or there won't be a will. So that's testate if they have a will, intestate when there is no will. Two kinds of property, we touched on that. Personal property, that's usually anything that can be moved. So it's anything that, cars, jewelry, stocks and bonds, money, antiques, things like that. Real property is real estate and land, and it also encompasses things that might be on the land, like oil drilling rights. Things that are attached to the land are considered, real property. Now, when it comes to the terminology of probate, I'm just going to skim through this because in my course I go through that in great detail. But the executor and the administrator, remember the executor is named in the will, the administrator is appointed by the court jointly, or they are, each of them is referred to often as the personal representative. As I said, there's no difference in the duties or their responsibilities. So you'll often see that term personal representative, and that just indicates it could be either an executor or an administrator. So the decedent is obviously the person that has died, and the estate encompasses everything that the person owned. So that's real property and personal property. So when someone has a probate and they open up an estate, what I see sometimes is the family just comes in and just starts taking things out, even though things have been willed, and it's your job as the personal representative to see that that doesn't happen. It's your job, if you find yourself in the position to make sure that this just doesn't happen. So you're there to guard the estate, and the heir or heirs. This is a person or the persons who will inherit property from an estate with or without a will. And this estate is going to be this process is going to be pretty uniform across the states, but there will be some differences from state to state. There will be a hierarchy of who inherits when there is no will. So, for instance, an uncle could not jump in front of a child. I think I have come unplugged here, Hugo. Hang on a second.
Okay, Sharon.
Sorry about that. So when the next thing that happens in this process is that there's a notice to creditors. Now, known creditors will need to be informed by the family or the personal representatives. So there should be a notice. There's supposed to be a notice published in the paper. And I looked it up for Illinois, and it said that in Illinois, they publish a notice in the paper to creditors once a week for 3 weeks. So that's the process. So if you wanted to find out about the notice to creditors, just Google notice to creditors, Chicago, or wherever you live. So this is, let's say that you owe someone money, a credit card or something like that, or the deceased owes someone money. You are supposed to notify these people in some manner so that they can get paid. And in Illinois, they have, if you are a creditor, you've only got 6 months to file a claim or you're out of luck. You can't file a claim after that point in time. So you need to know this just simply because this affects everything that happens. You know, if people don't file the notice to creditors, then it skews off the timeline for the way things happen. And again, when this usually gets messed up is when the family is trying to settle the estate themselves. So going over the steps, we've gotten to the creditors get paid. We're all the way down here. So we've done all this, that we know we've opened the estate, we've determined who's responsible to be in charge of the estate, to be sure everything is done correctly. The assets are sold, the creditors are paid, the heirs get what's left, and then the estate is closed. So this is the probate process that you need to understand. And know that the house has to be sold. That's the thing that you need to really understand. So when it comes to working with probates, did you know there's only these 4 pieces of information that you need to work in this niche? You don't need the will. You don't need a case number. You need the name and address of the deceased and the name and address of the executor or the administrator. That's it. You don't need some great big file to sort through. You just need that. Now, in the U.S., there are more than 3,300 counties. So for people that are not in Chicago, they often have a great deal of trouble trying to find the leads. They may be online. Some places are online, but I have to tell you, more places are not than are online. In my area, they're in the newspaper. And I always thought that was so terribly old school since we don't have them online here, but we are fortunate in that in the newspaper, you actually get all 4 pieces of information that you need. Some places folks have to go to the courthouse. And I was telling Hugo a story earlier about someone who is on the East Coast, and they go to the probate court and they can only get 5 files a day. Can you imagine if there are 50, 80, 100, 300 probates filed a month and you can only get 5 cases a day? It's just crazy. So for that reason, some people resort to purchasing leads. And I have to tell you, I'm not a big fan of going to these list brokers and purchasing leads. And here's why. They're very expensive. And they're very often come from obituaries. And if you were to go to a lead source and they told you that their leads are so fresh, they don't have the executor information, well, I want to tell you that they have gotten that information from obituaries. And you do not want to be working obituaries. Now, if you're in Chicago, you've hit the jackpot because you've got ChicagoDealVault, which has all the leads, all the probate leads. And we're going to go into that in more depth when we get down the road a little bit. But I just want to put that in there so that I want you to really understand that you could be the person going to the courthouse. You could be the person spending hundreds of dollars a month on leads. I mean, some of them are just crazy, like $10 a lead, so $500 for 50 leads, just crazy. So I just wanted to touch on one little thing here, and that's on estate taxes. I'm not an attorney and I'm not a CPA, but the only thing you need to know about estate taxes, as it concerns you as a real estate investor, is that the estate is on a timeline to file a tax return. And this gives you an advantage to move things along. So let's say they have not opened the estate for 6 months. They've got all of these things to do in a certain time period. And one of those is to file a tax return on the estate. So they have to get, when it goes through probate, they have to get an actual tax ID number separate from any tax returns that might be due on the deceased. They have to get one for the estate. So just know that that is something that you can bring up with people. What's your timeline? How are you doing? Do you know when you have to file your tax return for the estate? Oftentimes, especially if they're doing it themselves, they don't have a clue about this. So you just need to be aware of this because of your timelines. So now that you have the leads, what do? Well, it's a 5-step process. You find a house and put it under contract. I send that contract straight away over to my attorney. Now, if I'm wholesaling a house, my normal procedure would be I would call up someone and sell the house to them and send both contracts at the same time. I do not do that with probates, and here's why. It's because if there is a glitch in the estate, a glitch in the process, something that's going to hold it up, I want to find out before I get the house sold. In most cases, I'm going to be wholesaling these days, so I want to know that there's a clean title on the house before I get a buyer involved, and then, have to go back and backtrack and try to figure all of this out. So once I get the contracts over to the attorney, then I go to the closing, because in here, if I'm going to wholesale a house rather than hold it, I always double close. And that is very area driven as far as the cost goes. That's something you need to check out in your state. In my state, it costs me $350 roughly to do an extra closing. If you're in New Jersey, it's probably going to be $6,000 or $8,000. So I don't know what it is in Illinois. I don't think it's real expensive, but that's something you need to find out for yourself. Now, when you're marketing to probate, you want to get a list or build a list. However you get your list. You want the list. That's what you're looking for, is a list, not just a name here and a name there. You want to send them a direct mail piece every month, a letter. I only send white computer generated letters. And then you want to scrub your list every 4 to 6 months. And what that means is you're going to clean up your list and take out houses that have sold. And you're going to have to be patient and nurture people along this path, because remember that this is a hard time for them. Just because you send them a letter offering to buy their house, it may take them, I bought a house the first month, but I've also bought a lot of houses around the 1 year point. So it's a process. You have to be patient. You have to nurture your leads. Remember that 81% of your deals will come at or beyond your 5th mailing. That's not phone calls. That's not contacts, but that is deals. And 90% of your competition will quit mailing on or before the 3rd mailing. So take advantage of that and be the person that does this the correct way. Now, probably about now, I've just really loaded you up with a lot of information. That's what I looked like earlier today, Hugo. It was one of those days. So I'm going to tell you about something that I have for you, and it's a course called Probate Investing Simplified. So I have taken and put together a course that has all the steps. It has all the information in it, and I've got a very special offer that I'm going to tell you about in a little bit. And when you go to the site, Probate Investing Simplified, the only way you can get this deal is by putting in the /deal-vault. So Deal Vault. And I'm going to put this link up again, but I want to tell you what you're going to get in the course. So Module 1 is an intro to probates, and we're going to talk about this 1,000-mile view of probates. We're going to talk about why this is a business. We're going to go back over your mindset. We're going to talk about how do you talk to sellers in probate. What are some tips to get you over the hump and into the realizing that you provide a valuable service? Module 2, we're going to talk about getting the leads. We're going to dive deep into all of these things that I've gone into. And we're going to go into the special language that you have to put in a probate contract that protects you when things go sideways, and so that you don't end up with a contract that's no longer a valid contract. So we're going to have that in Module 2. In Module 3, you're going to get all of the terminology. We just talked about it a little bit tonight, but you need to understand this so that you can have an intelligent conversation with the sellers so that they view you as the expert. And this is a real game changer when 2 or 3 investors show up and one of them doesn't have a clue about, this whole process, but you do. And in Module 4, we're going to talk about marketing. We're going to talk about marketing as it pertains to investors. And I'm also going to talk about why this is a wide open field for realtors. Realtors as a whole do not market to probates, and they have the same opportunity, bigger opportunity, because in today's market, the bulk of the houses are going to be listed. So they have the same opportunity or better opportunity to get those as listings. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about marketing to attorneys. What's the right way to approach an attorney so that they will want to work with you rather than just shut the door on you? In Module 5, we're going to talk about working with sellers. How to build rapport with sellers. How do you make an offer to them? And we're going to also talk about if you're going to sell your probate deal, if you are a wholesaler, how you do that. It's really not as hard as what you might think. And then in Module 6, we're going to talk about websites and technology. We're going to talk about why you must have a website. Do you need a separate site for probates? Maybe you just need a page on your website about probates, but we're going to talk about some done-for-you solutions that I know of if you're not a techie, that are websites that are proven to get leads in the door. We've got some great bonuses for you too. Now, in my bonuses, I have the main course is 6 modules. I have a 7th module that is a direct mail module. And this module you can use in any niche. We're going to circle back in some of the things we talk about in regards to probates. We're going to talk about how you take that same knowledge and use it for absentee owners, for pre-foreclosures, for any niche. Because the same rules apply. Your mail piece will be different, your list will be different, and your message will be different. So we're going to talk about all of that. You're also going to get a complete set of probate letters for investors, a complete set of letters if you are a real estate agent, so that you can begin marketing to all of these people. And I think when I was in Chicago last, Hugo, you might remember this, but I think Andrew said there are about 300 probate leads every month, something like that. There were a lot.
Yes, correct. That's correct, Sharon.
Okay, so in my area, there might be anywhere from 80 to 120, and then you have to filter out the ones that are in really bad areas or the ones that are too expensive. So in Chicago, boy, it's just a virtual wealth of probate leads. So you're going to get the letters to market to these people. I'm going to give you the whole sets of letters, and you're going to get a sample letter for probate attorneys. Working with probate attorneys requires a special knowledge. I think people tend to just think, they don't give attorneys the respect they need, and where their time is concerned. So we're going to talk about how to make it a win-win for everybody. I also have for you a complete guide to using virtual assistants. It's just a bonus that I've used virtual assistants for a long time. I find them very easy to work with. They can take over a lot of the clerical type of stuff, list scrubbing and things like that, for not a lot of money, that allow you to do what you do best, which is deals, get deals. And by the time you're through with this course, you will know how to create a simple marketing plan for your probate business. It's not complicated, but you do need a plan. Now, is there anything else? Yes, there is. So we're going to have weekly Q&A calls. Some will be webinar type calls. Sometimes I may go in and do a Facebook Live just to mix it up a little bit because I want it to be fun. And I also have a private Facebook group for you and some bonus videos, which I've made for you and put in the course aside from all the other things that are in there. In your direct mail bonus module, this one module is worth the entire price of the course. I'm going to show you how to set up your campaigns and how to implement them the right way. I'm going to tell you what the right mail piece is to get results, what that right mail piece is to use. We're going to get tips for getting your direct mail opened and what to do with the return mail that is absolutely gold. Stop and think about this for a minute. If you're getting back returned mail, most people everybody else that's marketing to probates is getting back returned mail too. And in most cases, they're throwing them in the garbage. And you're going to find out what a bonus Hugo has for you at ChicagoDealVault when it comes to skip tracing. So in the course, we're going to talk about list maintenance, all of those sorts of things. So where my bonuses are concerned, all the bonuses are released in week 6 along with the 6th module. And there's a reason for that. I'm just not holding them back just because. It's because it's been my experience that people will just jump right to the end and start mailing out letters. And what happens then is that you are not going to be successful. You have to understand the process. You have to really dive into why all of these things happen the way they happen in order to be successful. And if you get those letters, I've been down this path a time or two, and people are going to start mailing letters. But once you get your foundation in place, before you start dropping money on direct mail, everything is going to be easier. Now, the Q&A sessions, I went over that. They're going to be on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock Eastern. And I like for everybody to get through the first module of the course, so I usually start that the second week so that they've had a whole week to actually have some questions. Now, we're going to get to the really good part, and I'm excited to talk about this. So Hugo over at ChicagoDealVault has put together an awesome offer for you if you sign up today. So when you sign up today, you get access to his ChicagoDealVault for the entire 6 weeks of the course for free. Seriously, free. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about that, but if you have any doubt as to the value of what he has to offer, you need to just talk to him and get him on the phone and let him explain this to you, because he can do a much better job than I can. But ChicagoDealVault is something I would just give just about anything to have in Louisville, Kentucky. And I've talked to probate investors all over the country. They do not have anything anywhere like Hugo has. So with ChicagoDealVault, it's a software where you can find deals for both on-market and off-market deals. They're updated daily. You get access to the MLS and the off-market deals like probates. You're going to get deal alerts. So when you put in there that you want a deal in, I'm just going to make this up, Oakhurst, and this is your criteria, then when a deal comes up, you're going to get an alert that alerts you that there's an opportunity for you. You're going to get access to deal analyzers for rentals and for flips. I mean, how cool is that? That's one thing people get really hung up on is, how the heck do I analyze a deal and know figure repairs and all of that? He has a comps analysis, access to public records, skip tracing. Remember when I talked about skip tracing? In my area, if you want to do skip tracing, you're going to have to pay a lot for a company and pass the vetting requirements of somebody like TLO, or you're going to have to use a company that charges $50, $100 a month, or pay $10 a skip. If you're looking at something like find a seller, but it's going to be $10 every time you have to find a seller. But Hugo has all of that included in his software. He also has access to private lenders and cash buyers. So just look, and this is just the beginning of it. So he has on-market deals, off-market deals, bank-owned properties, pre-foreclosures, auctions, and of course, what I'm interested in, probates. These are the leads that I think are gold. These are the leads that you cannot buy a list for unless you pay a whole lot of money for it. It's not like you can go to ListSource and get, you know, an absentee owner list. You can do that if you're in Kentucky or another state, but you cannot get the information that ChicagoDealVault has anywhere for the price of what, you know, he charges. You also get mailers and labels. You know, as I said, you get deal alerts. You get all kinds of reports and comps, and you can make offers right from his portal. So this is truly, it is a great opportunity and a great chance for you to get to sign up, you know, to try this out for free. Because I am so sure that if you are an investor who is to, you know, knows how hard it is to get leads, how hard it is to get a steady stream of leads, you're going to see that even at his normal price of $140 a month, or the discounted price when you pay in full of $1,440 annually, you're going to, that's a deal. I mean, there's no way around it. Remember when I talked about people paying up to $10 a lead for a probate lead? That's just crazy. $10 for $500 for 50 leads. You can get all of the leads in ChicagoDealVault really at a very reasonable price. But the best part is you get it for free for 6 weeks. So you've got absolutely zero risk here to try out ChicagoDealVault with this course. Now, what about the course? People say, well, what's your guarantee with the course? Well, I will tell you this, I've never had someone ask for their money back, and that is the absolute truth. But we have the course lasts 6 weeks. There are 6 core modules plus the bonus module, which comes in week 6. If you go through the first 2 modules and you say this isn't for you, you know, I figured out there's work involved here. Yes, there is work involved here. So you can ask for a refund back, you know, so anytime before the 3rd module, which is the halfway point, you can, you know, ask for a refund, but that's not going to happen. I'm absolutely confident that you're going to see that you're getting way more value than you can ever imagine. So let's just go through. You're going to learn what to do with return mail in the course. You're going to learn how to talk to sellers, how to put a deal together. You're going to learn to, I've got a video on role playing, how to talk to sellers in different situations. And you're going to be confident when you get through this course that you know how to build rapport with sellers, that you don't think it's weird or odd to, you know, or not in any way bad to work probates, that these people do have a need and you are there to help them with this problem they have. Listen, I've gotten more hugs at probate closings than I ever got at any other closings. These people are so grateful that you took this house off their hands, because oftentimes they can't afford the utilities. There may be a small mortgage payment, whatever the reason. Trust me on this one, they're going to be very happy that you help them out of the mess that they have found themselves in. And we're going to talk about following up with leads, and especially the ones that say no. And as I said, the special language that you absolutely have to put in a probate contract. So we're going to go over wholesaling probates, the timelines in more details. But the big thing here is you're going to know how to do direct mail when you're done with this course, not only for probates, but for all the niches, for all the leads Hugo has in ChicagoDealVault. You're going to be able to take this module and this knowledge and know the fundamentals of how to do direct mail correctly. Believe me, it's not hard, but if you don't know how to do it, you're going to dump a lot of money down a deep rabbit hole with direct mail. Now, what are we not going to cover? We're not going to go into a bunch of complicated legal stuff. I've told you about everything that you need to know about what you need to know as an investor as far as the legal stuff goes. I'm also not going to tell you some magic way to do this business that doesn't involve work. While Hugo's almost got that nailed with his leads, this, like any other strategy, this is work. You're not going to learn any shortcuts that are going to give you a 3-hour work week and, where you don't have to do the work. So that's just not going to happen. But you are going to know how to work in this niche and how to be successful when you get through with the course. So we're going to just dive deeper into everything that we've gone over tonight. Everything about marketing, leads, list, how to reach these people and the people that you need on your team. And I'm also going to talk to you about branding, because I think this goes hand in hand with probate, building your probate business or building your real estate business. As I said, you're going to get the letters, you're going to know how to do a marketing plan, the virtual assistant guide, 6 full weeks of free access to ChicagoDealVault. You're going to get a weekly Q&A and a private Facebook group. So I know you want to know, what's the investment for all of this? Is one investment is for $12.97, a one-time investment of $12.97. I don't think you're going to find any course on the planet that will teach you how to make money that's better than this. And I can say that with all confidence. This is a system that is laid out in a way that it will be easy to understand, because it's a step-by-step process. So it's not a bunch of theory, it's steps. Here are the steps to do this business. And once you combine that with ChicagoDealVault, you have just hit the jackpot. I just cannot even tell you how important this is. So I'm hoping that you can see this link, this whole link, because when you go to probateinvestingsimplified.com and you need to put in deal-vault, that's how you get to the page where you get the bonus. It's not on any other, you can't get to it any other way. And I think I've got it down here one more time. Yeah. So folks, that's it. And you can always email me if you have any questions. If you got any questions about ChicagoDealVault, Hugo's your person. I've just attempted to go over it. I'm very passionate about what he's done, because I know the value firsthand of what he has to offer. We do not have anything like that in Kentucky. Of all the people that went through my course last time, there's not a single person that has access to resources like this. Hugo, did you want to jump on here and say anything, add anything about ChicagoDealVault?
Yes, I will in a second. If anybody has any questions, can you please send them via the chat for Sharon?
Yeah, I don't see the chats here,
Okay.
so you're going to have to look and see if there's anything in there.
Any questions, can anybody please send them through the chat so that Sharon can answer them?
Yeah. And like I said, for some reason, I don't see the chat. Oh, I see. It's up here. It may be that I've just talked everybody to death. That may just be what it is, Hugo.
Right. Yeah, no, that sounds great. So what we can do, for those of you who are interested in taking advantage of this promotion, so please make sure you go to the website stated on the screen. And if you're ready to sign up, you can also call so that we can get you started today. Sharon, is there a phone number that we can have them call right now to take advantage of this option?
They just go to the page, Hugo, and then when they sign up, then I'll just forward them over to you.
Okay, perfect. So thank you, Sharon. So yeah, for those of you who are interested, please take action today. This is an awesome course that will pay off 10 times folds or more your investment. And while you're in the course, you're going to get free access to ChicagoDealVault. We're going to train you on the system so that you can take full advantage of the Probate Investing Simplified, put together by Sharon. So I highly recommend to take on this opportunity with Sharon today. Do you have anything else to add, Sharon?
I don't think so, Hugo, but if anybody has any questions for me, you can email me at Sharon@SharonVornholt.com, or if you don't remember that, Hugo has my email address. So you obviously know Hugo since you're on this webinar tonight, but it's my name it's up on the screen, Sharon at SharonVornholt.com. I can tell you this, I've been investing, I started investing in 1998. I've been a buy and hold investor, a rehabber, which was really fun until 2008. Wasn't so much fun after 2008. I've been a wholesaler, but of all the ways I have gotten deals, it has been probate deals that were my number one source of leads. And that has been true for well over a decade. So these are folks that have to sell the house. Stop and think about that for a minute. They don't, it's not an absentee owner who might want to sell the house. These are folks that in almost every case have to sell, they have to sell the property. Let's see here. Does Sharon have a website? This is the course website. Yeah, you may know me from my blog also, Louisville Gals Real Estate blog. Let me see if I can type that. That's pretty long. Obviously, I didn't know anything about naming sites when I named that. LouisvilleGalsRealEstateBlog.com. And if you look in the chat, there's that. So there's the probate site. I also have a podcast called Let's Talk Real Estate Investing, which you can find on iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever you listen. So it's Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. Whoops. Do you have anything else to add, Hugo?
So for those of you who are interested in signing up today, and if you have any further questions, you can also reach us via, I'm going to put in my phone number if you have any questions about DealVault and the integration with probates. So this is my cell phone. I'm going to send that to everyone. It's 773-368-4551. And then I'll be able to, I'll stay on the line, and then, or you can call me to answer any questions. If you want a demo, we can schedule a demo for ChicagoDealVault and how it integrates with probates.
I'm going to put in my email address here too, in case anybody wants to write it down. So it's Sharon at SharonVornholt.com. I'm in the process of rebranding all my sites. So everything's going to look very different a month from now. So feel free to start the blog. And I'd like to hear from you. I get a lot of comments over there. Let's see. I think this is, I don't think they saw the website address. Oh, everyone. Maybe they did. Okay. Any other questions from anyone?
Okay, so I believe you answered most of the questions. It was an awesome webinar, Sharon. Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. It's an honor to have you on the line with us, enlightening us with probate investing simplified.
Well, thank you, Hugo, for having me. And I guess if that's it, are you ready to pause the recording?
I believe you're the host, so if you can stop the recording, then we're going to send this out today for replay.
Okay.